So I won't see my picture anymore. All right, so we're just gonna go to the video. Okay, so we'll start. So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Lisa Honka and I am a senior living advisor. I started my company 4 years ago, Your Key to Senior Living Options, because I had saw a need here in the villages that people needed a little more help. I had actually come from Massachusetts, came down here and was a sales director of assisted living and memory care, and realized that this was very complicated in Florida. There's different licensing. A lot of people had moved away from their families. They had maybe had blended families, and there were a lot of options to choose from. So I started my company 4 years ago thinking I could help more people on the outside if I knew everything there was about all the different assisted livings, independent livings, memory care. And I really navigated from the point of view of the family. What does this family need this moment in time based on their medical and financial needs and wish list? And from there, the first year I helped 300 families, then 400, and now on average I help about 600 families a year. I get about 50 calls a month from about 300 different referral sources. So I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do. I work with all of the communities in the area, plus I can work nationally across the country through different agencies that I belong to. And so I'm very blessed to be able to navigate for families, whether they want to stay here in the villages, maybe look at support in their house, or maybe need to move closer to adult children out of state. So with that, I'm actually going to talk about what is assisted living and when is it time to start thinking about assisted living. So what we're going to talk about here in this presentation is getting your ducks in a row. We've talked a little bit in the last couple of presentations on what is long-term care insurance from a spouse's point of view. When do you know it's time to look at communities for your loved one for memory care? But this is really from the point of view of assisted living, and I'm going to give you a little bit of oversight into what is an independent living, assisted, and memory care as we go along. And at the end, we're going to do questions and answers, so feel free to unmute yourself at the end, and we'll answer some questions. So again, I'm Lisa Honka, and we'll get started. So we're going to talk about getting your ducks in a row. So everyone knows that things happen, right? The what ifs in life can occur at any time. And what if something happens to you or a loved one? Do you have a plan? So for instance, you have a loved one who has memory issues, or you have a family member who's out of the area, perhaps a parent. And what is your plan if that emergency happens? Have you looked at communities? Do you know what resources are in the area? It's important to have a whole circle of support plan for that emergency if something happens. If you were in a car accident, had to have gallbladder surgery and you needed help at home, or perhaps maybe you had a slip and fall and you needed perhaps a respite stay in an assisted living. It's good to know what options are out there. So people ask me all the time, what choices do I have and where do I get the answers for these choices? We look around and we say, do we want to live here in this area? Do we want to stay here? Are we going to be looking at perhaps moving to out of state near my family, or what kind of support I might need in my home? So where do I have these choices and where do I make them? So as a senior living advisor, I work with home care agencies, I work with places that can provide respite. I work with physical therapy, occupational therapy teams. I work with different hospice agencies. So it's important to know, again, resources, medical, financial. I work with a lot of different companies for looking at your finances and making sure that your money lasts, or perhaps sell long-term care insurance or can look at your long-term care insurance. And I also work with attorneys who may be doing Medicaid planning down the road. So what choices do I have and how do I make them? Next slide, please. So again, what are my care needs? Am I going to need short-term care needs, or am I going to need a long-term solution to my care needs? Can I get in-home care, Or am I going to need maybe a respite stay for a week someplace, or a month, or a few months because I'm going to have surgery and I need some support and I don't have family around? Or am I going to have an adult daughter come down, or a family member come down if I have an emergency? And where's my desired location? Is it going to be, again, here in the villages? Am I going to move perhaps to South Florida for a couple months while I'm going through rehab? Or am I going to perhaps move north back to where my adult children are? And what support will I need to keep my life going? Am I going to just need short-term help or long-term help? Next slide, please. So what's available out there? Independent living, assisted living, and memory care, the different levels of care that we have here. We also have something called long-term care skilled, and we also have rehab, but I'm going to focus on independent living. So independent living in the state of Florida is really a hotel license. They are not there to provide any care. You get meals, you get housekeeping, you get socialization, activities, but they are not there to provide care. The people there in the building are almost like house managers, but they are not there to provide activities of daily living, help with bathing, dressing, grooming, escorting. And it's important to understand that they truly do have a hotel license. They are not there to provide care. Assisted living is a community in which the residents are 55 and older. They are there to provide care. There is a licensed executive director by the state of Florida. They hold a license, as well as the health and wellness director of that community. They hold a license. There are 3 different level licenses in the state of Florida: a extended congregate care license, a limited liability, an LNS, limited nursing services license, and a standard assisted living license. Each one of those communities provide a different level of care. They have a different level of nursing available, and it's important as someone is navigating and making decisions that they truly understand what the level of license is for that community and what level of care they can provide. And memory care also has those 3 different level license. A memory care community is a secure neighborhood in which the residents have dementia, or perhaps Alzheimer's, Lewy body, frontal lobe dementia, and they need a secure and protected environment because they need 24-hour care, care to help cue them to come down to the dining, help with medication management, and all activities of daily living, or some activities of daily living. But living in an assisted living would be too much for that individual. So they need a secure and protected environment. We also have, of course, the short-term respite stays and rehabs if you're coming out of the hospital. And we have long-term care facilities for someone who is not appropriate for a assisted living and memory care any longer. Those are far, far more expensive and can run anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000 a month. So I really, if we're thinking about, and I get calls all the time, someone calls me and says, my parent needs a long-term care facility, and I ask them, why do you need a long-term care facility? And they said, well, they need one person to assist them with helping them eat or helping them dress, or they need, they can't get out of their chair without one person assisting them. Well, that still is in the scope of memory care or assisted living. They, you never want to go to a long-term care skilled if you can avoid it, because it's extremely expensive and the quality of life is significantly different than you would get in an assisted living or memory care. So I try to avoid that at all costs by perhaps going to a higher leveled assisted living community for people. And again, it's a conversation about what kind of care someone needs. Next slide, please. So again, independent living has a hotel license. It's community living. It's non-medical, and they they do provide activity. They do not provide activities of daily living, but they do provide activities in which you can participate in, such as going to the movies or going to the park or going to restaurants in the area, but they do not provide activities of daily living. No help with medication management no showering, no bathing, no dressing assistance, no escorting down to the dining room. So it's important that you truly are an independent individual moving into those communities and do not expect them to provide a level of care for you. Next slide. So what is an assisted living? Assisted living, again, is community living. They can be managing your medication if you need it. They do have nursing oversight, and it's important to know whether they have nursing 24 hours a day, if they have it from 8 to 5, if they have it 7 to 11, do they have it on weekends? It's important to also know the level of nursing that they can provide. So are they a standard level licensed community or an extended congregate care? What is the intricacy of the care that they can provide? Can they provide diabetic management, Lasix management? Do they do nebulizers, oxygen, compression socks? It's important that you really understand what that level of nursing is available at that community. They also provide assistance with activities of daily living: bathing, dressing, grooming, escorting, med management. And as I mentioned, there's 3 different levels of licensing. Next slide, please. Memory care, again, it's a secure neighborhood, community living. They do extensive medication management. There is nursing oversight, and they assist with all activities of daily living. So they will expect that going forward, if you were to move to a memory care, that they would be in charge of all medications and making sure that they are engaged with activities, coming down to the dining, making sure that if they need any incontinent help, they're there to provide it, and they put them on a care plan based on what their care needs are at that time. Next slide, please. So we do have 2 presentations that we've done in the past. So if you're interested in checking on these past 2 presentations, you'll be able to find them at our website. And we've done more there. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there are other presentations there on our website. Next slide. So when is it time to consider assisted living for your loved one? When you look at someone, and again, let's just, for instance, your neighbor. You've been friends with this person for 10 years. You've been living here in the Villages. They were a few years older when you met them. And as you look at them, do you notice that things are changing? And these are just some, for instances, to kind of get an idea of what might be changing with them and when you might have to have that conversation with them. So nutrition. Is that senior eating a healthy, balanced meals? Are they eating fresh fruits? Are they able to get to the grocery store? If you look in their pantry, in their refrigerator, is there food there? Is there healthy food there? Has the food expired? Just kind of getting an idea. When I ask people, are you cooking? Many people say, oh, I microwave food. I use a lot of TV dinners. We eat out a lot. So again, those are just things to consider. Nutrition changes. Safety. If you look at that person, do you notice that maybe they have a bump on their head? Maybe they have a skin tear. Maybe their ankles are swollen and they look different. Have you noticed that maybe they look like things are changing and that maybe there's some safety issues going on at home? Maybe they're walking a little bit differently because they've had a fall, or maybe their knee is swollen because they've had a fall. Next slide. So home safety, when you look around the house, sometimes when we drive down, or I'm walking around the Villages, or I'm driving my golf cart, and I look and I see, oh my gosh, the shrubs are overgrown, there's weeds there, the house looks really dark, and it looks kind of disheveled. If you look around the yard, is it neat and clean? Have things changed? If you look and see, are there all sorts of dead plants out front? You know, are there things that are just sort of changing, and you're looking around thinking, maybe the home isn't the place for them anymore. Maybe it's just beyond what they can do. The yard work, the upkeep, even the inside of the house. Do they need a housekeeper? Are things kind of messy? And then medication management. Are you noticing that maybe they're having difficulty managing their medications? Perhaps they've gotten some new medications and they may be wondering, well, am I taking that at night? Do I take that with food? And they're asking you questions about medications. Or you find that maybe even with the adult children, managing their medications, let's say, or they're trying to manage the medications, they are not always taking them. You look around the house and you find pills on the floor, or they say, well, I've slept through that medication, so I'm just not going to take my midday medications because now it's time to take my night meds. So maybe you're noticing that they're having more hospitalizations. Maybe they've got a lot of pills and they're saying, well, you know what, I'm not going to take that one. I don't like the side effects of that one. The heart medicine makes me tired. So again, when you're starting to hear these things, that people are having trouble managing their medications, or again, they're getting confused about when to take them, how to take them, or choosing not to take them, those are some safety issues. Next slide, please. So transportation, do you notice that they're having difficulty getting to their doctor's appointments, that maybe there's some more scratches on their vehicle, maybe some dents? I had a lady that I was talking to this weekend. She called me and she said, my son's telling me I should start to look at assisted living. And I said, well, why is that? And she said, well, I just haven't been feeling very well lately. And I started to ask her some questions. And I said, so what do you mean not feeling well? And she said, well, the other day I was really having a hard time breathing, and I was holding onto the bed, and the room was spinning. I think I have vertigo. And I said, really? What else? And she said, well, my neighbor gave me some water, and the water started slipping out of the side of my mouth. And I said, I think you had a stroke. And she said, you know, I think I did have a stroke. She said, a couple weeks ago, I started noticing that I kept hitting the curb every time I went out. I was driving sideways and I kept running the car into the curb. And I said, you probably were having a tiny little strokes or something leading up to that stroke long before you actually had that stroke last week. So again, do you notice dents and scratches on the car? Do you notice that maybe when they drive, they're driving on the wrong side of the road, or maybe they've hit the mailbox? I had a neighbor once, she called me and she said, my neighbor, every time he goes out of the house, I call 911 and the police follow him around because he hits all our mailboxes and we can't convince him to stop driving. So we have him going through a driving test. And I thought, oh, that's kind of scary, right? You certainly don't want him to kill somebody because they just didn't realize that there was a biker next to them. So again, even vision issues, right? If they have macular degeneration or if they have some sort of dementia, they might not see periphery vision as well as they once did, and may not see the biker next to them or someone who's walking their dog. Cleanliness, are you looking at your neighbor and maybe saying, they don't look as clean or as fastidious as they used to be? Do you notice that maybe they're wearing the same clothes over again? Or maybe if you look at them, they have stains on their clothes. They just don't look like they're washing up as they once did. So again, cleanliness can change, and that's one of the warning signs that things are changing for that person, and they may need to seek out a more supportive environment. Next slide, please. So finances, one of the things to notice too are they paying their bills on time? If you come into the house and you notice stacks and stacks of bills, or if they come and tell you, you know, my cable got turned off, I need to go pay the fine because I forgot to pay the cable bill, or you notice that they are having a hard time writing out the bills. Perhaps maybe, again, it's time to consolidate and not have 10 different pots of money going out for your cable and your electricity and your water and your phone and your mortgage and your insurances. Maybe it's time to consolidate and move to a community in which there's just one bill for everything. Again, you may notice that people are having problems with writing out checks, figuring out how much money they have coming in, or getting to the bank. I had one gentleman that every day he would go to the bank and do a withdrawal because he just didn't know how much money he had at home. And that was one of the warning signs to the children that things were changing. My father-in-law actually would go to the bank every day. He had Alzheimer's disease, and he would go to the bank every day and take out $100 just to make sure he had money. And eventually they called the family and said, I think there's some issues with Mike, and you're going to need to make some changes. And our family eventually did for my father-in-law. Friendships. So again, family and friends are incredibly important, but have you noticed that maybe your friend is withdrawing a little? Maybe they're not as active as they once were, or when they go out with you, maybe they seem a little withdrawn. Maybe the conversation moves a little bit too fast for them, and maybe even the things that they talk about are repetitive. So perhaps maybe, again, it's time to have that conversation that maybe with that family that mom or dad might need a little more support than they have living independently at home. Next slide, please. So these are some of the, quality of life. So is that an individual engaging in their hobbies that they used to enjoy, the activities that they used to enjoy? Or do they have a lot of, again, comorbidities, things that are going on? Perhaps they've been newly diagnosed with perhaps cancer, or maybe some heart issues. Maybe they've been diagnosed with cognitive impairment, and maybe things are changing that makes them need a little bit of medical oversight. So some of the medical reasons, next slide please, that people move to assisted living are 57% of the individuals that live in assisted living have high blood pressure, 42% have Alzheimer's disease or some form of dementia, 38% have heart disease, 28% have depression, 27% have arthritis, 21% have osteoporosis, 17% have diabetes, and then again, COPD, cancer, and post-stroke. So again, when you have multiple comorbidities, sometimes it's hard to manage everything, the home, the finances, your getting to doctor's appointments, perhaps, again, managing your medications, being social. There may be some depression issues that are coming into play when you've been newly diagnosed with something, or even managing diabetes and then having some cognitive impairment. How do you manage that when you have to understand how you manage your diabetes on a day-to-day basis, and how do you regulate that with food? So again, that's when people start to think perhaps maybe I need to make a change, when you have multiple medical issues going on at the same time. And it's hard, again, for that individual to manage it, or perhaps even an adult child to be managing for that loved one that might be living with them. So next slide, please. So how do you get information? How do you try to begin to formulate a plan? So the biggest thing is be proactive, right? Talk to friends, find out, have they ever researched any places? Have they heard about any places around here? Do your research on your own. So again, contacting me, I work with all of the communities. So finding out what senior living advisors can help you with. So do you need help in the home? Do you need help perhaps moving to an assisted living or an independent living? Do you need help selling a house? Again, I help with all of the package that people might need help with. Talk to your family, ask them, is anybody willing to come down? Are you thinking about maybe moving in with a family member? Do you have a grandchild that maybe could come for a short period of time? Just again, talk to families and ask them what their thoughts are on perhaps a move to an assisted living. Don't ignore issues. Don't wait until there's a crisis. I had a call this week from the sheriff saying, you're going to be getting a call from a granddaughter. Her grandmother was found walking around in the woods and was lost. Again, don't ignore issues that you might see in a neighbor or yourself or a family member, because sometimes things get really catastrophic and you certainly don't want the police involved helping to navigate for you. Make sure that you have your legal papers updated, making sure that you have a will, a healthcare proxy, power of attorney. Make sure that your financial papers are in order. So making sure that, again, you know where your finances are. If you own your house, great. If you have a will, if you have long-term care insurance, make sure you know what your long-term care policy covers. Does it cover assisted living? Does it cover home care? Does it cover only nursing care? Make sure that you have that in place and that you have updates on that. And again, if you have any questions about that, I do have resources that can help review that. If you have even life insurance policies, sometimes life insurance policies, as we know from Susan Wolf, who did her presentation, can be turned in for cash value. So if you needed money for care for a spouse or for yourself, sometimes there is cash value in those life insurance policies. Make sure that you have all your codes updated and in a binder, so if your children had to navigate or sell assets to pay for some care, you knew which accounts to use first. Also, make sure that even your adult children have the ability to pay bills on your a checking account at the bank. So again, making sure that your financial papers are in order and you know where your money is. Next slide, please. Figuring out the resources is like putting together a piece of a puzzle. It is very complicated. It's good to do this when you're not in crisis. So just again, knowing where the resources are to help you is incredibly important, because when you're in panic mode, it's really hard to make a sound decision. Again, next slide. Next slide, thanks. So again, I'm a senior living advisor and I help kind of pull together medical, financial, emotional wish lists for people and figure out what support they need this moment in time and then perhaps going forward. So that's what I help with. Next slide. Again, legal, we want to make sure that you have your, whoops, sorry, you need to go back. Medical. So medical is making sure that you have your advanced directives, your healthcare proxy, your HIPAA authorization. So again, if your adult children have to be able to speak on your behalf, the hospital knows that they can give them information about your needs. If you're very medical and you do not want to be resuscitated, that you do have a do not resuscitate form on file. The next thing that you need to get organized would be your legal. So making sure that you have your durable power of attorney in order, revocable or irrevocable trust, depending on what you've created, your living will, and making sure that you have that in order, your last will and testament. And if in fact you have profoundly no one in your world, whether you never had children or you don't have children, you don't have a brother or sister, someone, you need to be looking at perhaps a guardian. So I do have many people who, not this moment in time, but down the road, may need someone to help navigate for them, pay their bills, perhaps maybe sell a house, help make sure that they're getting the care that they need. And that would be a guardian. And I have many names of people that can navigate here for you. or in the future for you. They are through the court system. And again, if someone has no one, and there are people here in the villages who have no one, and they need someone to have oversight over them, a guardian is a good option, so that they have boots on the ground and that they are court appointed, and they are doing everything in the best interests of their clients. Next slide, please. The other thing, again, making sure you know your home value, your savings, your investments, if you're thinking about down the road, if you don't have assets and you may need Medicaid, or your neighbor might need Medicaid, again, you want to look into what that benefit is. Aid and attendance benefit is a benefit for those people who served during wartime and who are medically and financially qualified. So again, finding your DD-214 is important, again, long before you need it, if in fact you might be looking at that aid and attendance benefit to pay for assisted living or memory care. Making sure that you have your long-term care policy updated and understanding what the policy covers. People use Social Security to pay for the assisted living or memory care. Pension, again, people get pensions. When a spouse dies, you want to be sure that you do talk to a financial advisor about if you were still getting their pension or part of their pension, or at the time of your spouse's passing away, if their Social Security was more than yours, you want to certainly see if you could be eligible for their Social Security benefit. I've had a couple people in the past who actually didn't know that they should change their Social Security amount once their spouse passed away. So again, you want to just be on top of your financial needs or financial picture, so that if there is a need, you have full access to all the monies that you have. Or some people are on somewhat of a disability, either through the SSI program, or perhaps through a benefit from being in the military. So again, this is where people look to figure out how much they can afford if they are moving to a assisted living, is by looking at all these different pieces. Next slide, please. So again, one of the things as you look to figure out emotionally and spiritually what you might need, here's some different organizations that might be able to help you have a great quality of life. This is through the Alzheimer's Support Organization. So again, if you have questions about memory loss, or a spouse with dementia, or you have some memory loss, you might want to contact the Alzheimer's Family Organization. Counseling with TLC, they're a great resource for us, for those individuals who just need, again, mental health counseling. They're a wonderful support. And then again, church organizations are a great emotional and spiritual support for families. Next slide. Again, when we look at moving to an assisted living, we always want to look at where's the adult family, the adult children, where is the family, where are the grandchildren, where are the friends, and are they going to still be involved perhaps in clubs here? So some of the communities, the assisted livings, are on villages property, and people still want to go to perhaps their clubs that they went to in the villages, or perhaps again support groups through their church or through different organizations. So as we're looking at assisted livings, we're looking at where is all of their social support. Next slide. So how do I afford an assisted living community? Through these different resources, which are, again, Social Security, pension, savings, the sale of a house, a long-term care insurance, the aid and attendance benefit for either being a veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran, through Medicaid if you don't have the financial means to pay for a assisted living. Perhaps there's an accelerated death benefit on your life insurance policy, life insurance settlements. So sometimes you can find someone who will actually buy your life insurance policy. Sometimes for short-term stays in a assisted living for a respite, sometimes people use a reverse mortgage to pay for some care for a spouse or for themselves, knowing that they're actually going to go back home to their home after the respite stay, or again, a home equity loan if they're going to be returning back to their home after a short-term stay in a assisted living. Next slide. So this is an example of just a hypothetical 82-year-old. So Mary is 82 years old. She's a widow. She's currently getting Social Security at about $2,000 per month. She has no pension coming in. She decides she needs a one-bedroom apartment in an assisted living. The cost for the apartment per month is approximately $4,000 per month. She also needs medication management, which costs about $250 a month. And she needs one ADL, which costs about $250 per month. This is just an average cost, sort of looking across the board, high end, low end. So this is sort of middle of the road. Her cost per month is about $4,500 per month. Her monthly income is about $200,000. So we take the it's $2,000 per month, and we take the $2,000 minus the total cost, which is the $4,500, and we have a gap of $2,500. Once Mary sold her house, she got $250,000 from her house. She had approximately $75,000 in savings. So her total assets at the time that she was moving into the assisted living at 82 was $325,000. So we took this gap that she had, the $2,500 that she had each month, and we divided that into her total assets, which were the $325,000, and we got 130 months worth of money, or approximately 10 years worth of money. So that's just, again, a hypothetical, because sometimes people say to me, I don't know how I'm going to afford this, or my parent can't afford this, or I'm not sure how we're going to afford living in a assisted living. What if the money runs out? So when people sell a house, that's where the bulk of their assets are, above and beyond their savings. But for instance, if in fact Mary had long-term care insurance at hypothetically $100 a day, and she was now needing 2 activities of daily living, she would be getting approximately $3,000 a month paid for her care in that assisted living, and that would offset that gap. Or if Mary did not have the value of her house, if she only had $75,000 in savings, but not the $250,000, but she did qualify for the veterans benefit based on her monthly income and the savings that she has, she could qualify for a benefit of $1,100 per month that would help with that gap that she has. But for Mary, we probably wouldn't be looking at a one-bedroom apartment for her. We probably would be looking at a studio, which would be less expensive because we don't have the value of time in the money that she has. So again, these are just some hypothetical estimations of what sometimes goes on as I'm looking at people's finances and trying to figure out what they can afford. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it's better to be 5 years too early than 5 minutes too late. So be proactive in getting your ducks in a row, looking at your medical needs, financial needs, emotional wish list, talking to your family about what they're thinking about. I had a woman who replied on our Talk of the Villages about that she wanted to be taken care of by her adult children. That was her goal once she needed to go to assisted living. And the flip side of that is, yes, perhaps maybe you want to be taken care of by your adult children so that they have their inheritance. But you also have to consider that if you were going to be living with your adult children, is that something that your in-law would want as well, right? Having that extra person in the house sometimes is disruptive. And I've seen many times where you think it's going to be a year or 2 years, and it turns out to be 5 or 6 years. And having that extra person that needs more care is hard on the couple. The privacy, who's going to be doing the care? How does the adult son feel about giving his mom a shower or helping her with incontinent care? How does the adult daughter in-law feel about having mom in the house, the mother-in-law in the house? And how does that change what she was expecting to have as her retirement years? So again, things change all the time. The expectation sometimes they change, and it's good to have open communications. I had a family that I was working with, and she took on her sister to live with her a few years ago, and then now the husband has been diagnosed with memory issues, and he is having a hard time having his sister-in-law in the house when he now is needing a higher level of care and his wife's attention. And to see someone who has dementia and to know that you're on that journey too is sometimes a little jarring. And so we were looking at perhaps placement for the sister so that the husband and wife can have some time together and enjoy the time that they have, because she has now been a caregiver for 4 years for her sister, and her journey has just become a new journey with taking care of her husband with his Parkinson's. So that's something, again, just to consider, is that sometimes thinking that you're going to live with your adult children or they're going to move in with you, sometimes it works for a while and then it doesn't. And it's good to have open communications about expectations about when it just might not work anymore. Okay, so as we went through everything, the circle of support. So again, make sure that you've got your legal papers in order, financial papers, make sure that socially you're staying active. But if, again, you notice that things are changing with yourself, a loved one, a neighbor, that's a good time to seek out support. Make sure that you're doing pre-planning. If you have any questions, certainly reach out to a senior living advisor. Your doctor is a great source of information and support. If you need in-home care for perhaps wound care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, make sure that you reach out to your doctor and get those resources paid for by Medicare. Again, end-of-life care, I can help you with that. If you know someone who needs hospice, hospice can be used for up to 2 years, activated on your long-term care, or on your medical insurance. And that doesn't mean that you're actively dying. It just means that you meet the qualifications. So again, if someone has a diagnosis of dementia or cancer and death is not imminent, but you could use their supportive services or some of their expertise, that's something to look into. And then again, making sure that emotionally you're okay. I know it's hard in this pandemic. We're all struggling with isolation and the new normal and the changes, but certainly make sure that your emotional needs are being taken care of through support groups or through friends or through, again, professionals like TLC. Last slide. So again, is everybody ready to create your circle of support? I hope so. I hope this has helped to kind of get you organized for the future. And again, it's pre-planning, right? Better to be organized than be in chaos and making decisions or having people make decisions for you that you would not have made yourself. So it's good to know what all your options are. Last slide. I think Maureen has a slide too about our, here's our website. So again, if you have any questions, want to go to our past programs, the informations are up there. We are going to be having one next week, August 26th, presented by Pat Hayes on restoring the balance in couples relationship. So with this pandemic, we're all bound together with our spouse more than we ever thought we would be, and she's going to be doing a great presentation on that at 11 a.m. Next Wednesday. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? Has this been helpful? We'll open up the mics. And has this been too much information, just enough? Anybody want to send me any questions or have any questions? You can unmute your mic. Hi, Gretchen. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Hi there.
Hi there.
Okay, Gretchen, what's your question?
Okay, my mother has a question.
My name's Artie, and
Hi, Artie.
I have two questions. On the do not resuscitate, I have heard that if I do it now and date it, and I have problem 3 years from now, it's not going to be accepted. Is that true?
Are you at a point where you really want to use that, Artie? Are you?
Well, that's the trouble. I am not, and I put it off, but I do know the importance of it.
Yeah, I think, Artie, right now, I don't think you need it. You're young enough that you want to be resuscitated. You want to be brought back. But if
when that changes and I'm not able to do it.
Right. So again, in your power of attorney and your legal documents, it says, and again, you want to state that if you feel that you have no quality of life and your adult children are making decisions, right? If, let's say you have a catastrophic stroke next month, right? And there's no brain activity, you want to be brought back. But if the doctors come to your daughters and say, you know, we realized that when we were transporting her to the hospital, we could not resuscitate her. She was down for 8 minutes, right? Her brain did not get oxygen. They resuscitated you, but they brought you back, but the machines are breathing for you.
No,
at that moment, your power is there. And I had this happen with my mom. She had a massive stroke at 71, and we put her on a ventilator for 2 weeks. We tried to get her off the ventilator. She couldn't do it, right? She had a brain bleed. It was catastrophic. And we tried to get her to breathe on her own. She could only do it for 30 minutes. Well, by the end of the 2 weeks, she coded and they could not bring her back.
No, I understand.
So, yeah.
Did you have authority to help her?
We knew what her wishes would be. There was no quality of life. She could not.
The doctors and all that business.
You
always agree with what the family wants to do.
Yeah. So again, we can talk about this, Gretchen, and I can put you in touch with some people to kind of walk through this. But most of the time, Gretchen, it really comes down to, or Artie, sorry, when it comes down to quality of life, right? If the machines are breathing for you, the brain is dead. If there's no quality of life, your wishes would probably be, let me go, right? Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. So again, you want to be resuscitated. Now, if you had terminal cancer, right, and you were on, and you knew that if you had a stroke or if you had a heart attack during the time that you had cancer, you would probably say, you know what, just let me go, right? But you're not at that point. You're walking around, you're talking, you're thinking.
I am 80 years old, but hey, that's incidental. I have one other question. This is really weird. Okay, we have family in Alaska. Do you have a way to connect us with somebody like you there?
Sure.
So that we might do what you just described in this presentation,
sure.
With the help of somebody there.
Yeah, for sure. Contact me directly and I'll get you in touch with a senior living advisor.
Okay. Okay, and is it somebody experienced necessarily or somebody new? Because we were up there and we tried to talk to people, and it's I guess this or I think that. We got no real information.
Sure. Let's talk, let me come and either talk to you, we'll meet at a park or something. Let me gather information from you. I can do a search as well, but what I want to do is find out what you're looking at, your time frame, what your needs are, and then from there, I can help find you the right person.
Okay, well, I have the way to contact you, so when we think the time is right, we will pursue that. And I do thank you. I enjoyed your presentation.
Yeah, and just so you know, what I'm doing now for families, because they can't really tour. So for instance, I have a daughter right now who's in Tennessee, and I said to her, your mom's had a stroke. We need to look around here. I know your wishes are to bring her to you, but she's not willing to do that right now. Let me send you some virtual tours of some communities that I think would be a match for her. I want you to be along for this journey. So one of the things that we can do, Artie, even now, is have them send you an information packet, a virtual tour. You're not going there, you're not ready to go there, you're 5 years too early, right? I mean, you don't need anything, but now you're just looking at them and getting educated on the verbiage, the words, the cost, so that when you get up there, you can say, hey, drive me by this community. Let me go in for lunch. Let me go meet the people. Let me see what the activity calendar looks like. And I'm getting educated because I'm not ready yet. It's like getting your kids ready for college, right? You're looking years before and you're just saying what's out there. And if a new building gets built closer and it's better and it's got a great reputation and it's exactly what you're looking for, terrific. But it brought you to that point, right? You got educated along the way and you have a comfort level of your decision when you make that decision.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So that'll get us going. I thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Terry.
Lisa. Hi.
Terry.
I have a question. You mentioned that frequently a person's, a spouse's Social Security is higher one than the other.
Correct.
To whom would I call to find that information out?
Yep. So you want to call the Social Security Administration. So yeah, you definitely want to, if your spouse has passed away and theirs was higher than yours, then you should be getting theirs. So whichever number is higher. Yeah.
Would they have told me that?
No.
Okay, so that's okay, because I didn't get that information.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
don't know whether it's so, but I'd like to check it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, anything that they were eligible for. Was your spouse a veteran as well?
No.
No. Okay.
So Social Security, I have to call Social Security.
Administration. Yeah, Social Security Administration. You have their Social Security number still, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'll get it though.
Yeah, you can get off your old taxes. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, well, I hope this was helpful. And again, it's going to be posted on our website. I was just trying to give everybody sort of a snapshot into what is an assisted living. And many people don't need assisted livings right away. Sometimes they move to independent livings, and that's enough to keep them safe. Again, if you're trying to mitigate costs, right? Sometimes an independent living will buy you time, and time is a valuable thing when you have limited assets. And so what I look at is average age of someone moving to an assisted living in the state of Florida and around the country is about 85, right? So everybody here is much younger than that, but it's good to know what it offers versus a independent living and what we have here or near your adult children. A lot of people stay here until they become more medical and then they move closer to their adult children. Okay, I think that's it for now. So if anybody has any suggestions, any comments, we'll be sending out a questionnaire. And if you have any topics that you're looking for information on, certainly send that to me as well. I'm actually, we're going to be doing one with Susan Wolf again. She's got a couple of presentations that she's going to be doing, and that's going to be helpful for financial. So, and then we're also going to get a lawyer on so they can talk to you about what papers need to be done. Many people are thinking about Medicaid planning and irrevocable trust versus revocable trust, and that's important for people to know. And also, again, making sure that you have your power of attorney and what does that mean and when do they get the power to do what they need to do. So, okay. Well, again, if anybody has any questions, certainly shoot me an email and answer our questionnaire and let us know what next topics you're interested in. I hope everybody has a great week. It's nice to see everybody again. Everybody take care. Be safe. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us.